Welcome to Breakthrough Success. I'm your host, Mark Gabberty, the content marketing expert, bringing you 5 new episodes every week where I and top-level guests teach you how to take your business to the next level and achieve your breakthrough. Hello, Breakthrough Success Sisters. I just wanted you all to know before the episode actually starts, I've been working a little bit behind the scenes to give you something really special. So a while ago, I wrote my book, Content Marketing Secrets, which helps people create, promote, and optimize their content for growth and revenue. And I just put the finishing touches together to offer that for free to anyone who is interested. So if you want your free copy of Content Marketing Secrets, all you have to do is head over to markgabberty.com/book. Now, let's jump right into the episode. One of the ultimate goals for any business is to make a bigger profit, because if you are making a profit, you are able to stay in business. The business that is making $300,000 per year in revenue, that has to spend $400,000 per year to keep operations going, is not going to stick around very long. So we have to be more focused on profit. But at the same time, as we go towards this profit, we don't want to get overworked and stressed either, so that we don't really enjoy the things that we are doing inside or outside of our business. We got to enjoy life as we go towards the bigger profits. So that's why we're going to focus on that in this episode. So today's guest, who's going to talk a lot about this topic in this episode, he started his online business from scratch in 1996, and he actually went from delivering pizzas to designing an internet lifestyle business, which gave him both the freedom and the money to enjoy life. He is an international speaker who helps entrepreneurs who want to make a bigger profit but feel that sense of they're overworked and they're stressed. And beyond the stages and all the interviews that today's guest uses to spread his message, his company, MyMarketingCoach, is a further manifestation of his desire to help entrepreneurs. Today's guest for episode 229 of the Breakthrough Success podcast is none other than Terry Dean. Terry, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Terry, I'm really looking forward to our time together, because we want to make bigger profits, but a lot of people feel like on the road to making bigger profits, overwork and stress are just part of that road. So we're going to clear up that misconception, talk about how we can actually make a bigger profit and be able to enjoy life, not feel overworked, or some of those things we talked about earlier. But before we do that, I'd like to get some background. So can you share with us why you decided to start MyMarketingCoach, and just a little bit about how you went from the delivering pizzas to the internet lifestyle business?
Well, I'm going to give you the quick version, since we want to get into the content for everyone here, but I'm sure this will inspire some people as they go forward. Is back in 1996, I was in debt and delivering pizzas for a living, and that was basically the last in a long string of dead-end jobs that I did, such as selling satellite dishes door-to-door, signing people up for credit cards in front of Sears, and then delivering pizzas. And back then, this is 96, I first heard of some success stories online. And even though I had failed a lot of things before, I had tried to do a lot of business opportunities, like I had tried to do network marketing and direct sales, and I was never very good at it. I heard of the internet. I said, this is something I can do, but because it doesn't require me to sell in person, it doesn't require me to basically get on the phone and sell someone like I had to with the network marketing or networking like I had to do in the other types of sales. And so I came online, and I first got started by licensing a few products, which I started selling online. And I just think it's funny how the internet goes in circles, because back then I got started in some of the CompuServe free forums. And so I basically, you could call that like very early social networking in some of the forums. I went there, started networking with people, started giving away free reports, answering people's questions, getting people on my list. And I just laugh at that, because it's 22 years ago, and CompuServe is long gone, but you can still use the same method today on discussion boards and Facebooks and other social media sites that we can go to. So that's where I got started building people onto my list, started selling these products that I had licensed. And it was about 6 months in that I realized that my income was directly proportional to the size of my list. So as my list grew, so did my income. And so I started concentrating on my list at that point. And once I started concentrating on my list, that really started building up to my income. You go fast forward a couple of more years, I started creating my own products to sell to my list. I started getting invited to speak at conferences. I created one of the first membership sites for internet marketers. I could almost call it a who's who of internet marketers back then, because many of the people that you know today, experts today, were a member of that membership site when they were first getting started. And then I sold that first business in 2004, took about 18 months off the internet, just, having fun. I call that my first retirement at 30 years old. And then I came back with my marketing coach, basically with the mission of helping other small entrepreneurs earn more, work less, and enjoy life online, really working on not just the making money part, but also building a lifestyle you enjoy, where you get to do something that you love doing, you build up a business, and you really get to focus on your talents and what I call your superpowers. Let other things be outsourced and, really enjoy the business, because that's what this is really about, is creating that lifestyle that you love.
And I really like how you mentioned that you saw that your income growth was proportionate to how much your email list is growing. And this is something that I recently realized and take a lot more seriously now. The money's in the email list, but that whole idea of the proportionality of it makes a much bigger impact on you when you're thinking of priorities. So that's why, for listeners wondering, you're seeing me coming out with more bundles, you're seeing me come out with more virtual summits. A lot of that is to grow the email list, because that is just so powerful for making revenue. So I'm wondering if you could share with us some of the tactics you have used to grow your email list, and what do you believe works best?
Well, over the years, I've used a lot of different tactics. So we'll talk specifically about what works best right now compared to what's worked over the years. Some of the things you already mentioned, summits, are an extremely good way to build a list really quickly. And they're especially good for someone who's, more in the starting point, because then they get to tap into other people's credibility. They bring in experts who people know, and they basically get a little halo effect by being connected to these experts. So summits are really good. Doing interviews with, like I'm doing right here with you, this is a great way to build your list as well, because you get to share value with people, to someone that already has an audience. So this is a great way to build lists. Also, doing a lot of content that you put out, such as on YouTube, is one of the methods that a lot of my clients use for building lists. And then we get over to paid advertising, which I know a lot of people in the net marketing field don't talk a lot on the paid advertising side, but I really love doing paid advertising, which means I've built a lot of subscribers through Facebook advertising, through YouTube advertising. Those two are really my favorites personally, on Facebook ads and YouTube ads. But I have clients, we do a lot of Google search ads and Google Display Network and Bing ads. And I'll even mention one more application here too that we've been using really heavily over the last year, because again, it's one that people don't talk about as much. And that is, most of the time we concentrate on free lists. And when I talked about when I first started, these were free subscriber lists. I now have several clients that we found it more profitable to sell a low-end product. And by a low-end product, one of them is selling a product that's $29.95. The other one is selling a product that's $47, but he lets them pay a $1 trial up front, so they're only paying $1 down and then 2 payments of $23. We found that running those for paid ads directly to the sale was much more profitable than taking them through a free email list in their case. So we actually, you can say in that process, we're building a buyer's list in those markets. And we've tested that. So that's an approach I would tell somebody to even consider, is you might have your free list, but also you might go for a low cost sale initially and build up a buyer's list. And the reality is, we say the money's in the list, but our money's really not in that free list. It's in the buyer's list that we're creating, because out of a big list, maybe 10% of them end up being buyers that come through it. And so it's just counting those numbers. I would much rather have a buyer's list of 10,000 than a free subscriber list of 100,000. Just, that's from a lot of experience doing this. It doesn't mean it's easy to get that, but that's just how to think about in your mindset. That, and even when I do the free subscriber list, I try to translate those people into buyers as quickly as possible with a low cost offer or something else immediately after they subscribe, because I want them in the habit of buying.
That's a very important distinction, one that I haven't heard, the free email list versus the email list of buyers. That's a very important distinction for anyone to make. And if someone does buy your product, you should be able to segment them in such a way where you can put them on a list of people who have bought, so you communicate with people who have bought your products in a different way from people who haven't bought any of your products yet. So that's a very important distinction. And one of the things I want to talk about, one of the promises that I mentioned earlier in this episode, is that whole idea that we want to make a bigger profit, but feel less stressed and not having that sense of overwork. And I feel like those are two things that a lot of entrepreneurs get due to the nature of it, because there is a lot of freedom, but there's no barriers to the amount of hours that you can work. And there are a lot of benefits to that, but also like you feel like you've never done everything you can. There's always more that you can possibly be doing. So how can we avoid getting overworked and stressed as entrepreneurs, even when there are no barriers that, in a sense, like we could technically work for as long as possible?
Well, you could say you could technically work as long as possible when you're young. See, I've been young and now I'm getting a little older. I'm 45 now, and I've been doing this, so the 22 years. I'm not at the point where I could technically work as much as I could back when I was in the 20s and still feel good about it. But to really think about this, probably the biggest mistake that people make is they think that just because they can do something, they should do everything. And I think that a lot of times they listen to gurus talk about all the things that they're doing, and they might see a guru in all these different social media sites and doing all these different things at once, but they don't account for the fact that this guru might have 50 employees at this point. And here's the reality. If you're a solopreneur, you're not going to do the same thing as somebody who has 50 employees. And the good news is you don't have to. The clients I find that have the most fun and really enjoy their business the best, they really get focused on what they can do best, what personally they want to focus on. So for example, they might do interviews such as you're doing, and so they will make that the majority of what they do for content. And so they'll focus on this. They might hire someone else from Fiverr or from Upwork to come through the interviews and create written content out, to transcribe it, turn it into written content. They might hire someone else to go and turn them into videos by taking pictures and maybe pulling out some little written clips that they can put onto it and turn into a video for YouTube. So they'll have someone else taking and using the content in other ways. And I do that a lot with multi-purposing. Anything that you do, anything that you should do, we should be figuring out how we can use it in multiple different ways. How can we split it up? How can we use it? How can we edit it in another way? For example, I have a paid monthly print newsletter for those who are basically, the people who join this are really people who are building an information business and they want to optimize it to the best possible. Well, I do that print newsletter, which is a lot of writing each month. I write about 19 pages for it, about 19 written pages. Well, as you can imagine, if I go and do a webinar, a lot of times if I go and someone asks me to do a webinar, I will go back to my newsletter and I'll do the exact same content that's in one of my previous newsletters, and I'll just turn it into a PowerPoint. So instead of taking a couple of days to produce the PowerPoint, it takes me a couple of hours because the content's already written. So I reuse that content in a lot of different ways. I've reused the content to create books out of it. I'll do some of my emails that I send out to my list or excerpts out of that newsletter. I'll pull out a piece, especially a piece that gives a little bit of content but teases the rest of it, and I'll send that out by email. So that's the first thing that we all need to think about, is how can we reuse whatever we're doing, and along with that, we don't have to be everywhere doing everything. One of the first things I do when a new client comes to me is we'll actually go through what they're doing right now, and we'll look at, okay, what is the most effective thing? And most effective, we're looking for how are they building those leads, getting people on their list? How are they generating sales? And what's funny is many times I'll find that they'll have one or two ways that they're really generating leads, and most of the other stuff that they're doing simply isn't doing anywhere near the same results. It really comes back to the 80-20 rule. What is the 20% that's producing 80% of the results? And we'll just sit back and we'll go back and forth over where they're generating leads, where they're generating sales, where the majority of money is coming from. And a lot of times, the very first thing we do is we cut off a lot of stuff they're doing. The reason being is they can get really good at doing just a few things. All of us can get really good at doing a few things. None of us can get really good at doing a whole bunch of things.
There are a lot of great insights there. I really like the idea of reusing the content that you create, because a lot of when you create a new piece of content, the more content you create, the more you're trying to figure out ways to use the same content or say the same things in different ways. So it's really good to reuse that content from a time-saving standpoint. There's just so many time-saving things like that available. So we should look at what we're doing right now and figure out all the ways that we could be saving time, and maybe even like doing the delegation as well, because that is just something very valuable for any business to do. And earlier we talked about the email list being so important for any business to make revenue. And as we've both discovered for our email list, it's directly proportionate, that email list growth, to the amount of income we make. So in addition to spending time growing the email list, what are some of the best places, best ways that we can use our time to increase our profits?
Okay, to increase our profits, first we're going to grow the list. Obviously, we're going to communicate regularly with them, and more frequent the better, which again is if you get in a practice of producing emails or content almost daily is a really good schedule. Most of my clients send somewhere between 3 and 7 emails a week, sometimes even more than that when we're running a special, so more than 2 a day during some specials. But you want to do that first, and then next you want to be thinking about, okay, how do I make offers? Because that's really the business that we're in, is I want to get people on my list. In other words, I want that audience, and then I want to make offers to them. And so I want to start thinking about, okay, what offers can I make to this audience? And here's what I really want people to think about here. And that is, the mistake that a lot of people make is they spend years in business. I did this. Okay, so this is me. You spend years in business selling very low ticket products. So selling products for $10, $20, $30, $50. Now, it's good to have 1 or 2 products that are lower end like this to help bring in customers and turn those new subscribers into buyers as quickly as possible. But I've seen income jumps for clients very quickly once we start getting them thinking about much higher ticket products. And I'm thinking right now, for example, of one client that he had all digital products, and so all of his products were priced somewhere between $37 and pretty much like $99, the majority of his products. And he was doing okay in this business. I mean, he was doing a couple $100,000 a year. We took his business close to $1 million last year simply by adding in some higher ticket offers. In some cases, it was as simple as having a product that was 3 payments of $99. In other cases, it's because we added some clinics that we sold for $750 all the way up to like $6,000 worth of clinics. Since by adding in this higher ticket component to his business, we really jumped up his income, which at the same time meant he could spend more on advertising. He was able to bring in more people onto the team. And that's what's really interesting. The testimonial he gave me not too long ago, he went from working like 60 hours a week to him saying he's down to like 20, 30 hours a week, and he gets the freedom to do whatever he wants and go on vacation whenever he wants. And he did that while like tripling his income, because having more money come in means that you can spend more for team members to do a good job for you. So that's what I'd really tell people to focus on, is focus on your list and then think about how you can create irresistible offers for that list, and not just what many people think of a low ticket, but like my 2 big components that I've seen increase people's income again and again is some type of continuity type program, which is a monthly type system, and something that's higher ticket offer into the business. So that's where I tell people to focus a lot of attention, is those 2 areas.
And pricing is another like big topic, because like one of the things that people feel like they have to do is they have that sense where they underprice themselves. They price themselves inexpensively for like maybe they think that if they give themselves too high of a price tag, people won't come, or maybe they even think that they're not worthy of that type of a price tag. So for people who just listen to that part of the episode and they're thinking, I'm not worth X amount of dollars. I mean, you mentioned there's a $6,000 service that your client offered. So how do we, like, for people wondering, build up that level of confidence or be able to say, I'm going to charge this much for myself or my product because I know it's worth it?
Well, see, I've been there also. The first few years I was online, I pretty much didn't think anybody would spend more than like $50 online. And that's because I was broke. Come in, you don't make a lot as a pizza delivery driver. Come in, and so when you're broke, you think everybody else is broke also, or that what you offer doesn't have the value to them. So I wouldn't tell you that you all of a sudden jump up to the level, like in the case where we just mentioned a $6,000 offer, we did like a $750 offer for $750. So there was like a stair step going there. And it was the same thing for me. I went and did like $49. I jumped to a $99 offer. I went to a $200 offer. I went to a $500 offer. I've made offers, as $6,000 and up, but that was a time process. So you're going to gain a little confidence as you go. I wouldn't tell somebody to sell their first product at $50 and sell their next at $5,000. Their brain would go a little tilt when they tried to do that. But you really need to think about, again, what's the value of what you offer to the end customer? What is it that you're doing from them? And here's how I like to think about it, is I like to think a lot of cases, we'll go in and we'll think, okay, what's the ultimate offer that I can make? So if I could do everything that my customer wanted and deliver the end benefits that they really want, all of them to them, okay, what is that ultimate offer? And I'm going to not think about cost or anything here, but what could I create to do that for them? So like an internet business, that might be the ultimate offer. It might be, okay, they would like me to actually sit down and create a product for them, to write all the copy for them, put up a website for them, do all these different pieces. And my time for something like that, if I were to do something like that, I'd probably be charging them $50,000 or more to do something like that. But then I'll start thinking, okay, how can I get this down to an affordable level where it is something that they can afford? Perhaps I'll bring it in. Okay, we'll do group sessions together. We'll give them the system. Maybe I can give them the templates for the different tools. Maybe I can add in some private sessions. And then in my mindset, again, I'm thinking, okay, I'll bring it down. Maybe then it becomes a cost of $5,000 for this product that I put together for them. So I really think that's one of the aspects you want to think about, is what is the end benefit they want? Stop thinking about cost at first. Think about what are the end benefits they want? What is the ultimate offer that we can deliver for that purpose? Like, I'll give you an example. I have a client who runs a fine dining restaurant, and we added a component to his business. We added paleo weight loss meals, which means people go and they spend money with him, and his restaurant will cook all the meals for them. They're all basically ready to warm up and eat, and they just come to the restaurant, pick up the meals, and then they get to eat. I mean, we've added multiple six figures to his business by adding that into the business. And you think about that, that's an ultimate type offer, because you don't have to cook anymore. You don't have to figure out what you should eat. His restaurant actually hands you all the meals you need, and he just tells them, you eat these and you're going to lose weight. That's an ultimate offer, and it's not a cheap offer either for his restaurant, because again, he's a fine dining restaurant, high quality restaurant. But what you think about here is we need to get as much away from you thinking about here's what I'm worth or here's what the cost is worth. Think about what the end results are worth. And a lot of times, to really motivate you, this is a little off, but it's like a really simple thing to do, is go out in the market and see what else is selling. For example, if I have a client in weight loss, we'll look at, well, in weight loss, there's clinics that people go to that are weight loss clinics. Well, they'll spend $5,000 for the week. They'll spend $1,000 a day to be there. People are spending this money if it's the right audience. And what all they're really spending for is what are the end results that they want to get out of this. And so a lot of times going higher ticket means thinking about the ultimate offer, thinking about what the end results you can deliver, and seeing what others are doing in this market. And in some cases, it means targeting a little bit different of an audience, a higher class audience, an audience who has the money and is willing to pay for it. And it might just be like a small selection of your overall customers. Maybe out of all of your buyers, maybe 5 to 10% of them could spend for the higher ticket, but that's all you need is the 5 to 10%, because that's kind of a complaint everybody always gives me, and I'm just getting that objection out of the way first, is people are going to say, well, my audience can't pay those kind of prices. You know what? 80% of your audience probably can't. That's okay. But the 20% who can, you're leaving a ton of money on the table by not delivering the benefits that they really want.
And I really like this focus on the end results, because if you focus on the end results and what you're providing the person, not just features and that, but like results, transformations and things like that, it's easier to charge a higher price for your product when you are looking at it from that perspective. And we've talked a lot about like what it takes to achieve success with the internet lifestyle. We've talked about the email list. We've talked about pricing. We've talked about a few other things. But what do you believe holds most people back from being able to have profitable internet businesses and not living in a life of stress and overwhelm?
It's going to be, this is a weird answer. It's going to be a mental answer. And I've seen how important this is, especially over the last few years. And that is, most people are held back because of a lack of confidence and a desire for certainty before they get started. If you're going to be an entrepreneur and be really successful, extremely profitable, you're going to have to embrace a little bit of uncertainty in your life. If somebody goes out and gets a job, they're going to be promised exactly how much they're going to earn per hour. So if I go work for someone, it might be minimum wage or whatever else the job is, I'm going to know exactly what I'm getting paid. If I show up for 40 hours next week, I'm getting paid this next week. As an entrepreneur, you don't have that certainty, and you never will have that certainty. Here's why that's important, is I found that people who succeed are people who are very willing to fail, and fail often, fail fast. That's kind of almost my procedure of things. I'll get in a concept. You know what? I got an idea of how I can get more subscribers. I want to try a new offer for getting subscribers, a new lead magnet to get people into my list. Well, I'm going to put up the landing page as quick as I can. I probably won't even pay to have it designed because I just want to do it real fast and optimize press. I'll put up a page. I'll put up an ad on Facebook. I'll start running it. And I'll know within a day or two, I'll spend a little bit of money. I'll know within a day or two whether it's working or not. And you know what? I don't get upset if it doesn't. I'll be like, oh, well, that one didn't work. We'll try something else tomorrow. And having this much experience online, I can tell you I failed more than most people, and I don't consider them failures. So this is the real big issue. The reason this becomes important is, see, I have that aspect. I'm going to implement fast. A lot of people will sit back and they try to get everything in order before they get moving forward. As a matter of fact, not only do they try to get everything in order before moving forward, which takes forever, but they also second guess themselves constantly. Well, what if this doesn't work? And then they change it again. I've done it. I'll bet you've done it. And I'll bet the listeners have done it at some point. They might start doing a product. They might start creating something, and then they quit in the middle to go do something else. They've just second guessed themselves. So the biggest thing I can tell people is to implement quickly, get things done, get things out in the marketplace, let the market tell you whether it's good or not, and then run from there. And so that's kind of the biggest thing I can say is embrace uncertainty to a point. Embrace going out and doing a test, seeing if it works. I've felt that still 22 years in this business, I've still felt that nervousness on that first email as you get ready to hit the send button for a new offer that you're making to the list. Okay, I've still felt that uncertainty. And I have to laugh. I call it the heart attack curve now, because a lot of my audience, and this is true for most people's audience, is you might have a special that you're running for 7 days. You're creating a new product. You have a special going for 7 days. It ends on this day. And it seems like more than half your orders come in the last 6 to 12 hours over the whole week. And I call that the heart attack curve, because there's been multiple times I've told my wife on day 2, 3, and 4, this offer sure didn't work. I'll have to do something else next time. And then we get a huge surge in orders the last 6 hours. That makes it all worthwhile. And that's part of being in an entrepreneur lifestyle. And you almost have to get to the point where you say, I enjoy that. I embrace uncertainty. I'm going to move forward no matter what.
And I really like this focus on doing and being able to accept mistakes, because perfectionism is something that I feel like holds a lot of people back. And the moment you shatter that, the moment you're willing to, as Terry mentioned, fail fast, fail often, that's where you get to learn a lot, and you eventually do come up with that offer that does very well and that is able to help you generate a lot of revenue for your business. And like revenue is something that a lot of us are going after. For some of us, it's a big challenge that like we're just trying to hit a certain goal. So with challenges in mind, Terry, I'm wondering if you could share with us one big challenge you faced in your journey with your internet business lifestyle and a powerful lesson you learned during that challenge.
Well, by challenge, you ask it a problem that I overcome, or a challenge where I gave myself 30, 60 days to do something?
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, usually it's a problem, but okay, you could do whichever.
Okay, I'll do the problem one, because the problem that's coming to mind first it kind of goes along with the whole theme. One of the biggest mistakes I made early in my business, which is part of the reason I came back and created my marketing coach to help people focus on their lifestyle, is in my first business, I had a huge email list, and I kind of made myself way too accessible, which meant if someone emailed me, I'd email them back answers. I'd give them these detailed answers. And I was just like really trying to help everybody all the time, which is a good thing to a point. But I started seeing something, and that was like I made a group coaching program where I offered direct coaching help. And it seemed like nobody who'd been emailing me, asking me for help that I had been helping for free, joined the paid program. Some of those same people would email me how they joined someone else's paid coaching program. And at that time, I was spending hours every day answering people for free by email. And that was like a big shocker to me. What a mistake that was. Again, wasting so much time doing that. The reality is I needed to do things that gave me basically more access to a larger audience. And so instead of individually helping people, if someone emails me today a question, I might email them back something real quick on it. But if I want to write something detailed for them, I'll do it as an email to my list. So I'll write up, hey, this question came in. This question here, and here's how I would deal with it. So it becomes content for me that I create in other ways. So I use it for this way. I don't do it private. And then I run private coaching programs that people pay me a premium fee to actually do the same support that I did for free years back, which I should have never done for free. So be thinking about that is where is the access to you? What are different levels of access? And I would even tell somebody that once you get a certain measure of success, your list is growing. It's a good idea to put together a coaching program, even if you don't want a lot of clients, because then when people come and try to get free coaching from you, you have something that you can point to over here. And I'll throw in a bonus real quick for the other question. That is like a 30, 60-day challenge is take 30 days in your business where you're going to do something every day. So 30 days, the next 30 days, I'm going to write an email. I'm going to write one new email for my list, or I'm going to produce one new video for my list. And those can be really good challenges to give yourself because by the end of 30 days, you're going to get really good at it. And it's the same thing of uncertainty. You overcome the uncertainty, you become someone who implements. You might not be that great at writing emails the first day of 30, but day 30, you start getting really good at it because you've been doing it every day. So I answered both questions.
I mean, that 30-day challenge is a really great challenge because it forces us to focus on one thing because we can get scattered as entrepreneurs as we see all these different goals, all these different opportunities. So it's really good to just focus on one thing for 30 days, maybe even expand that after the 30 days. And your big challenge was a lot of focus on like you giving like too much time with individual emails because like, I mean, we all have such a limited amount of time and there are different ways to help people. And like in some cases with individual emails, you may find yourself answering the same questions over and over again. And the email list is actually the to-do list of other people, and you are one of their check marks on the to-do list usually. So you got to be able to balance responding to people through email because opportunities come your way. Some people have questions which you should answer and not and like doing other things. So can you talk a little bit about how you balance that, like especially like for an interview opportunity like this, because like I communicate with everyone through email usually to tell them about breakthrough success. So how can you balance like all the emails coming in into your inbox with all the other responsibilities for your business?
Well, here's how you take care of email. With email, set 1 or 2 times per day. Most people, I would tell them to set 1 time per day. I also help clients by email, so I do at least 2 times per day, sometimes a little bit more if I have like 2 clients side by side and there's just space in between. But we'll say that you set email twice per day. Each time that an email, I will actually go through and I will read all of my non-spam emails. I actually use Gmail, and Gmail's really good at getting rid of the spam stuff, so they get most of that out of the way. And I go through and I read all of the non-spam emails. Newsletters are all automatically filtered. So, hey, if I'm on your list, it's getting filtered over to a newsletter folder, and I'll go through those maybe once or twice a week, the newsletters over there. So I'm not actually seeing those in my inbox. They all go to the newsletter folder. But individual emails that come in, I will scan through them and read them. And here's the actual rule for it. Now, the exception to this rule is, again, I deal with clients who paid me money for this. Clients who paid me money for this, who might ask me to review a sales letter or review a landing page. I might come back to those later when I have more time and I can really focus on it. But those are only for people who've paid me for it. Everyone else, I will scan through and I really follow a rule of 1 touch, which means when I look at your email, I either respond to it or I'll archive it then. I do not come back to it. So that's and the reason I do that is because you're going to find that you waste a lot of time taking this email, thinking about it later. Now I have to go back and do it again. I end up having a full email, and it seems kind of weird, but running a big business, including answering clients by email, there's a lot of times that my email is completely empty because I went through it and I finished it all. It's all out of there by the time I went through. And a lot of emails happen really quick. And as I just said, if I get an email that someone's asking me a question and they're not a direct client, I have a habit, I will reply real quick. And real quick means like 1 or 2 sentences. back. They answer the question quickly. And many times I'll say, this was a great question. I'll answer it in an upcoming email. And then I'll basically grab the email and throw it over into a little Word document so I can write an email off of it later that I want to send out to the whole list just for value. So that's the biggest thing you could possibly do, is think one-touch emails, have specific times that you answer the emails. And so it's very rare that any email gets opened twice.
I really like that one-touch rule, because I do like it makes a lot of sense. Like, you see the email, you read it again, it's something you don't feel like responding to, you go back to it some other time, and you keep doing that over and over again, and you gotta process it over and over again. So that one-touch rule makes, I mean, I can just see it already, makes a really big difference.
You just spent an email that would have taken you 30 seconds to answer. You've now spent 5 minutes at least looking at actually spinning it in the box, plus almost half an hour of your time away from your email thinking about it.
And that's just one email.
And that's just one email, because we really have we have limited mental energy, and if you're trying to make decisions about all these things, that's like wearing us out. You got to quit trying to make decisions about all these things and just get it done. A lot of things we do, we just get it done. Like I told you, even if I have come up with an idea for an offer, if I can do it quickly, I'm going to get it up and just test it quickly, not try to figure out if it was a great idea or not anymore. I'm just going to do it, because I'll spend as much time worrying about it as I did to create it and see if it worked or not. And then it's out of my mind. Mental energy is a key aspect.
And I mean, I definitely agree about the whole mental thing. Like, the mindset is very important, and it's the make or break for any person's success. And one of the things that I do frequently to strengthen my mindset is to read as many books as I can get my hands on. So I'm wondering, with that in mind, if you could share with us 3 books that you believe will have a positive impact on us.
Okay, 3 books that have a positive impact on you. Well, see, that's always going to change, but what I've read recently. Okay, Scott Adams' book on why, I can't remember the exact title of it, but why I failed at almost everything. It's kind of it's something similar to that. Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, who wrote basically a motivational and almost business type book, and it's really good talking about things like the talent stack. So that's an unusual book that I'd recommend to everybody. On the copywriting side, it's a hard book to get a hold of. You can get a low-cost copy of it, Eugene Schwartz's Breakthrough Advertising. I absolutely love it. I've read it multiple times, that book, and that's kind of unusual when you read a lot of business books to actually go back and read the same book 3 or 4 times. So that's another big book that I'd recommend to people to read. And trying to think of a third book that I've read really recently that jumped out at me. You stumped me with the question.
There's so many books. I mean, you probably have like 10 in your mind. You're just trying to pick one of them out or something like that.
Yeah, well, I've read so many different books over time. It's just, which one do I want to recommend that people go through? A lot of the books I read are copywriting focused, or, I do a lot of books on copywriting and marketing. I'm just trying to pull out and think about which ones jumped out at me the most recently that I went through. As I said, Breakthrough Advertising is one of my favorite copywriting books. I'm looking through my skin here. The other one that I really love, I recommend for people, is the Adweek Copywriting Handbook by Joe Sugarman. The reason being is it's like a really simple one. Those 2 books that I just gave, the Breakthrough Advertising is like a really advanced book. So that might be later for somebody if they're beginning at this. The Adweek Copywriting Handbook is a very simple book to start with, and it really gets you into some like basic storytelling with books. And that's a key aspect with online writing, is learning how to tell your own personal stories and to almost cloak your message in a story as you go through. Because a big key that you're going to learn online, and this is one thing I'm so glad I focused on when I started a long time ago, was I focused on learning persuasion, learning copywriting, focusing on that, because the methods we use today are, considerably different than they were 2 decades ago. But persuasion stayed the same because human nature hasn't changed.
Terry, thank you for sharing with us those great book recommendations. Those will all be in the show notes, marketability.com/E229. If you guys want your copy of Content Marketing Secrets free, just pay shipping. You can get that at marketability.com/book. And before we wrap up this episode, Terry, I've asked you several questions throughout our time together, but what do you believe is one question that we need to be asking ourselves more often?
The number one question we should be asking ourselves every single day is, what is the most profitable activity I can do first today?
Terry, that is a really great question, especially from a business standpoint that we need to continue asking ourselves. So thank you for providing us with that question and all of your great insights throughout our time together. If you guys want to learn more about Terry, we're going to include this in the show notes. He has a free download available, 7 unique ways to create profitable emails, even if you are not a writer. It's got bonus cheat sheets, subject lines, 64 story starters, and a sample 27-word email for making sales to an unresponsive list. So that free download again, 7 unique ways to create profitable emails, even if you're not a writer. Terry, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to be on the show today. It was such a pleasure to have you on Breakthrough Success.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
How does over 100 retweets per day sound to you? My free ebook, 27 Ways to Get More Retweets on Twitter, has you covered. I use the methods within this ebook to get over 10,000 retweets every single quarter. To learn